Hello Trek, Episode 5. Captain Steinway's office, USS Saxon, 7470.6. I was in my office chair, once again, thankfully. No sign of any health emergencies. No sign of any stray androids. I had suspicious feelings about Fallon, my head of security. Lieutenant Fallon was brought on board by our android captain. We were now on course to the Janus Gate. Of all the people that would be suspected as being an android, it would be Fallon. Yet he would be the fox in the henhouse because of his position in security. I used my communicator. Commander Green, I realize you're off duty, but could you come to my office? On the way, sir, from the officer's lounge, said Commander Green. I watched with a cup of coffee in my hand as Commander Tabitha Green entered my office. Commander Green, can you read this? I asked my first officer, handing her the tablet. Commander Green looked at the pad. I can read it, but I cannot tell you what it means because it looks to me as if it is encrypted machine code, sir. Actually, you should have seen a control in which to play the message. You're saying that it is audio or video? I said. Indeed, sir. That is what I'm saying, yes. You should have not seen it in this current state. Let me have it and I will decipher it, she said. Commander Green did her work and then flipped the pad around so that I could look at it. What am I looking at? Captain, you're looking at what you think you're looking at. The header on the file must have been corrupted. It's fixed now. Thank you, Miss Green. You may go back to the officer's lounge now. Dismissed. So, after my first officer left my office, I locked the door and I went to play the message.
Level 4 Intelligence Briefing for Captain Merlin, O. Steinway. From Starfleet Intelligence. The subject is Lieutenant Fallon, assigned currently to USS Saxon as its security officer. Subject is suspected as being an android like the one dealt with most recently. Sent along with android Kenton, by former Admiral Browning. Consult with your intelligence officer. Lieutenant Commander William Hatfield in a Level 4 hardened facility. End of Level 4.
I listened and watched the screen go blank. I tapped my Delta 73 and said, Mr. Hatfield, my office now. Come alone. Steinway, out. I waited and Hatfield arrived, came into my office and stood before me. Working late, Captain? I see. Must be important, said Hatfield. Lock the door, I said. I watched Hatfield turn and lock the door. Now, I said, handing him the pad, listen to this. I waited for him to listen to the message and then said, surveillance is called for. Do a face-to-face with me as soon as you know. Dismissed. We traded salutes, then he exited my office. I intended to have him confirm if he thought that our security chief was indeed an android before going further. I returned to the bridge and saw that Lieutenant Lee Brooke was in my captain's chair. She slowly got up and took a step to the right, sitting in the next chair over. She saluted, and I saluted back. I was in thought again. Maybe I should have handled this directly myself. However, it would be good to have a second person validate the situation. I've done the right thing. So I turned and I walked to the turbo lift, but I stopped and momentarily realized I needed to go out of Halo. My body was in my office, so I turned and returned to my office. And I said, Saxon, exit Halo, simulation. I undid the straps for my office chair and floated up and out and toward the door. I was on the bridge once again and saw an unused android standing beside the turbo lift. My motion for it to come near to me, it detected, and I strapped onto it to have it transport me through the turbo lift and the corridors into my quarters. Once I was inside, I floated to my couch, but I thought better and floated to my bed and strapped in. Then attached the Halo connection to my head and said, Saxon, in Halo. While in the simulation, I stood up from the bed once again and began doing things around my cabin in a weighted environment. I thought back to my days on Earth. I liked the fact that I could walk around normally. There were some good points in regard to weightlessness. It did feel kind of nice. So, to be weightless in a sleep cycle was pretty good. Thinking of this, I had the computer take me once again out of Halo, and I decided to get some rest. Saxon Bridge, in Halo. Captain's Log, Stardate 7471.3. Beginning my duty shift on the way to Janus Gate. End of Captain's Log. I sat myself down in my captain's chair, strapped myself in, put my Halo unit on my head, and said, Saxon, enter Halo simulation. I looked around me, seeing other people in the room now, in our functional simulated environment, and all was well. I took the brief report from the previous ship's operations officer. Everything was situation normal. Steinway, this is Hatfield, over. Steinway, go ahead. Captain, meet me in the bridge. I have an android in custody. Very well, on my way. Commander Green, you have the bridge. Aye, sir. I stood and then said, Saxon, transport me immediately to the brig and supply me with an android when I get there. Understood, Captain. Steinway, said the Saxon computer. I blinked, and I was suddenly in the doorway of the brig, in simulation. There stood Mr. Hatfield outside of a cell, and inside was the android that we knew by the name of Morgan Fallon. Morgan Fallon was in a different uniform now, with no rank. The android is only operational because I thought maybe you would like to ask some questions, Captain, said Mr. Hatfield. Well, Lieutenant, haven't you questioned the android? I asked. I have, sir. It seems to have lost a chunk of memory Must have been something in the programming. And so there would be no use in me questioning the android then, would there? I said. You're right, sir. Sorry about that. Not at all, Mr. Hatfield. So, deactivate the android, I said. Saxon computer, provide me with an android in case I need to go hands-on. You are linked to an android in Halo, said the computer back to me. I stood ready as the cell was open and Hatfield entered and deactivated the android using an electronic pulse. Now we know for sure he was not human, I said. Captain, the way I confirmed it was by using the transporter. Seeing as how humans are so frail in those transporters, and it did not put up any fuss, it was almost immediately confirmed to me. What if you'd been... Didn't you think? What if he had been a human? I said. Oops. That would have been a problem, said Hatfield. Yeah. Mr. Hatfield, remind me not to put you in the position of security. You're staying in intelligence. Have one of these other guys be head of security. I'll do that for you. Aye, sir, said Hatfield. Brig in Halo. By the way, Lieutenant Commander Hatfield, forgive me for calling you Lieutenant. Not all, sir, it happens, said Hatfield. I'm going to put Aurora Corinthos as the new security chief, I said. Make it so, Mr. Hatfield. No, sir, said Hatfield. I think you should have your first officer do that. Are you refusing to... Well, never mind, Mr. Hatfield. I'll do it. I turned and started to walk out and then stopped. No, I continued on down the corridor into the turbo lift. Saxon computer take me to the bridge. I walked out and onto the bridge and walked over to Commander Green. Commander, see to it that Lieutenant Aurora Corinthos is uniformed correctly as the new security chief, effective immediately. She's off duty. See that she gets notified. Aye, aye, Captain, said Green. So, Captain, what happened to our current security chief? Oh, let me get you in the loop. Our current security chief was the partner of the android captain, which is not a captain anymore, which is not functional. And so it turns out our security chief also was an android. She looked at me in disbelief. Oh, yes. As far as I know, we have no other androids faking their positions around here. Thank you, Captain, she said. I looked at the view screen. Everything looked normal. We still had about 2 to 3 days before we reached the destination, which would be the Janus Gate. Everything looked good. Carry on. Bridge. Time 4:98. Lieutenant Aurora Corinthos reporting for security, sir. I'm reporting for duty, sir. Sorry. She was already in a uniform with a yellow neck on it. We are at the end of your shift, Lieutenant. However, you should probably go down to the brig and report there, I said. Brig? Oh, well, sir, I'd rather call it the security office. Don't you think that's better? She said. Thought for a moment. Okay, Lieutenant, you have my permission. Make it so, I said. Thank you, sir. Aye, aye, sir. I returned her salute, and she exited the bridge. Captain's Log 7471.5. Enter to the record that Lieutenant Aurora Corinthos is now the head of security and that the brig will now be known as Security Office. End of Captain's Log. This is the end of this episode. Thanks for listening. I am Eugene, son of Douglas.